We are privileged again to have the dentist advisors, Matt Mulcock and Ryan Isaac, come and speak to us tonight regarding the state planning. I asked them to specifically address this topic. I know this is on the top of a lot of people's minds, and I thought this was a fascinating topic when I talked to them about it. Tonight, Marin asked me if we had a will. I said yes, and she promptly ordered the brownie with nuts and then offered me to sit by her and munch on the cake. So, will you guys address that tonight?
There's a life insurance section.
Will you talk about maybe who the benefactor should be? Maybe a
murder is excluded from life insurance policies most of the time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm allergic to nuts, by the way. What's that?
Ooh. Okay.
Because Den is also a benefactor of my life insurance policy. So if I don't come out of here alive, by the way, Marin's been listening to a lot of Dateline.
Dude, Marin will be the second person to come up from the trail, like with bloody fingernails, and be like, I left him down there. I don't know. The tide was coming up.
If she comes up with one shoe, don't even.
Yeah.
Don't even.
Eating fruit casually. Just like, I don't know.
Hey, is there any sandwiches left over I can have?
Should we go get him? No, don't worry about it. I don't know. It's fine. I just want some water.
Okay, without further ado, it's all up to you guys.
All right, let's go. Yay. Okay. Estate planning. Okay, I think it's fair to start off with a little bit of disclosure-ish information. We are not attorneys. And I
You already knew that.
Yeah,
you knew that.
Wrong group. However, a good financial planning partner in your life will act kind of like a quarterback among other advisors. And so that's what we end up doing a lot for our clients' lives. So we're not CPAs, we're not attorneys, we're not consultants, we're not brokers, but
There's a lot of things that we're not.
Yeah. What are we actually? Yeah.
Don't even know.
There's two things we are. We're financial planners or investment advisors. But we work really well and we partner with all these people to help our clients connect with these services when they're needed. And then we can help coordinate when things need to get done along some of those lines. So I think it's just important to say as part of the process. We're going to start with a story. The story of Giles Corey in 1692, Salem witch trial. So this is kind of interesting. He's a rich farmer. He was 80 years old. And he was accused of being a witch. I didn't know that the men were accused of being witches back then, too. I didn't know this. So Giles Corey was accused of being a witch. And his wife, Martha, was also accused of being a witch. So it was a very witchy family. They had a lot of wealth and land and property. If you were accused of being a witch and no matter what happened, if you were accused and you went on trial, you lost all of your estate to the government. So if he entered any kind of plea, guilty or not guilty, he would lose. It wouldn't matter. He would lose all of his stuff. So Giles Corey was one of the first examples of going through a little bit of pain in order to do some good estate planning. So what he did is he refused to enter a plea in his trial. He wouldn't say guilty or not guilty. So what they then did is they put old Giles, 80-year-old Giles, and this is probably the most impressive part. They put him in a torture device. You guys didn't know this was happening tonight. They put him in a torturing device. That's his head. I don't know what the pointer is around here. That's his head over there. The torture was called pressing. And they basically laid you on a platform, put a wooden other platform on your chest, and then just loaded you with boulders slowly. And then the court gathered around and then just asked him to enter a plea. So the most impressive thing, and the only thing he lasted for 2 days like this before he actually died. And he was also the first person to die by pressing in the United States. So, go Giles. The only 2 words he uttered the whole time for 2 days are the same 2 words that Matt Mulcock says every day in the gym. And those 2 words were more weight. That's it. More weight. So they kept asking him for his plea and he wouldn't enter a plea. More weight is all he said until they added more weight on top of him. They crushed him. He died. And his estate actually went to his heirs. So this is one of the earliest cases of really painful estate planning. And it does kind of feel a little like that today because if anyone, I don't know if anyone cares to see this. Raise your hand if you have done, like, completed an estate plan. This is not embarrassing if you don't care to say that. Okay.
Yeah.
Apparently, yeah, you're thinking
Jared,
of murder.
be careful.
More people in this room than I would have thought. Our experience in helping clients get estate plans done is that what's wrong with the process? It's just really long.
A lot of people start it, they don't finish it, is what we've found.
Yeah, it takes a long time. Does anyone want to comment on that? Like, some people, we were talking to Mark last night. He flew down to his attorneys, got it done in a couple days. It's probably the way to do it, like sit in their office and make them. Does anyone else's take like months to get done? Like emailing documents back and forth?
There's some pointing back there.
Oh, that was for you?
The other thing we see a lot is people they maybe put something together when they have kids. Kids are usually a trigger point for a lot of people, understandably so. But then they'll let it go 10, 15, 20 years, multiple assets later, and they have not reviewed it. So if that's you, let this be a reminder. It's probably time to review. The general rule is 3 to 5 years, and then any major life event, you should be reviewing an estate.
Also, fun fact tonight. Matt, do you want to tell the fun fact?
Oh, yeah. It's very rare, if ever, I can one-up Mark Costas, but I do want to point out that I have.
Yeah, you've succeeded Mark Costas in this thing.
Mark was talking about how he only looks at his presentation 10 minutes before. I haven't even seen this presentation. So I haven't even seen it.
Thank you. Matt Mulcock, everybody.
By the way, he wouldn't show me.
I wouldn't show him.
We were at the pool working on it. Or he was working on it. I wasn't doing anything. And he's like, I'm not going to show you. You just have to show up. And I was like, okay.
No, Matt helped me outline this whole thing and send me a ton of good data.
I hope it's good.
I just wanted to tell jokes in front of Matt and make him laugh for the first time, and I wanted to be fresh and authentic from Matt. If you guys laugh, that's fine. It doesn't really matter.
Here we are.
Okay. By the way, we're going to give you guys a couple of things at the end of this that will be the most valuable pieces of this as we get going. So, okay, we got 3 parts we're going to do here. The first, we want to just give a little bit of information about what's going on in the country, what they call the Great Wealth Transfer. Let me grab some data because I didn't. Actually, first of all, this is what I really wanted to show you, Matt. I asked ChatGPT.
It's literally for one joke. This is why you wouldn't show this.
It's not even that funny. Okay. I just wanted you to see what I did. Okay. Matt, what is the Great Wealth Transfer? I'm going to grab my data here.
Okay, so
you explain what the Great Wealth Transfer is.
We thought this would be an interesting thing to talk about.
And I have all your data I'm going to read too, but just conceptually, what is the Great Wealth Transfer?
Okay, so we thought this would be interesting concept because I think we're all in a similar boat in some form or fashion. We are in this, what I'd call the sandwich part of life, aging parents and then kids. So this creates kind of 2 sides of the discussion when it comes to estate planning. I'm dealing with this where it comes to parents with health issues and having that conversation from the context of the child and having to have that kind of awkward or sometimes hard conversations. I'm the executor of my dad's estate, but then also having children and figuring that out. So we thought it'd be interesting to talk about the 2 sides of this. Do you want to give like the numbers or do you have the numbers?
No, we got the numbers here. Okay. But before we do the numbers, the Great Wealth Transfer right now is coming from what generation? To
baby boomers.
To the rest of us.
Largest, it's the most wealth ever held by a generation in the history of the world is all held by baby boomers right now. $84.4 trillion held by the baby boomers, set to be inherited. $72.6 trillion. As of now, the estimate is $72.6 trillion is going to be transferred to the younger generation.
Yeah, huge transfer.
Massive wealth.
In light of that, we have I'm just
curious why the boomers, was there something that led them to
so much wealth?
Like why did they hold it and make it so that it passed to their generations versus
like spend it as opposed to spending it? Or gifting it before that? Ooh, that's a really good question.
It's a good question. I think part of it, there's probably, and this is, I don't know this for certain. I think part of it is the baby boomer generation is huge. I think it's the biggest generation ever.
Population size?
Like the actual population size. I think part of it is the age in which they grew up, like the time of life from... Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think
scarcity,
from 40s, exactly. Like the mindset they had. Also, just the economic dynamics of. I think the boomers are 1940 to like 1950 something
Yeah, yeah.
in that generation. So I think the economic situation of being born there to what we've seen, the economic actual growth we've seen, if you're holding assets, whether it be real estate or the stock market or anything, I just think the amount of wealth you're able to amass has just been
Yeah, I would
insane.
wonder too how it's concentrated, how much is in businesses and real estate that's not liquid. And so during their lifetimes, they're taking like dividends and income from these things instead of like stuff they can gift away. But it's probably a hoarding mentality too. I mean, from being raised by Depression era parents. I don't know what that generation was called before Boomer generation. Do you guys know?
The silent generation,
generation?
I think. Yeah.
There's probably a mentality of, I mean, how many people in here know pretty wealthy people in their, let's say, late 60s and above, very wealthy who still think they're going to run out of money? Does anyone know people like that? Yeah, everyone here knows someone like that. Very, very, like they're going to have generational wealth and they think they're so poor. They're still like washing tinfoil and putting it back in the drawers. Like, yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Marin's like, yes.
Anyway, this belabored the point way too long. So now I asked ChatGPT to illustrate. I said, give me an image of a boomer generation woman handing money to a millennial person. Okay.
Okay.
All I wanted you to do is laugh. I don't really care about anything else
I'm
here.
already giggling.
First, we got this, okay? So ChatGPT thinks, and I said, put it in her house. It's in grandma's house. And so I said, okay, that's pretty good. Can you make him a little less interested because he's millennial? He doesn't really care.
Is he interested there?
I don't think
Looks like he's posing.
I don't think he's very interested. And I said, make it more money. So then it came here. Thank you. This is why I didn't show him earlier. I just wanted you.
Sad she is.
I said, make him trendier and make him less interested and make it more money. I said, more, yeah. And then I wanted even more money. And then it was this.
Why is she getting older?
He's getting younger.
He's
a different kid.
and better
He's a
looking.
different kid. Yeah, and then finally,
Yeah.
it's just bigger money.
It's just bigger dollars.
It's actually less money. And then I was like, chat, look, one more time. I need the most money and I need the least interested millennial kid here. And then for some reason, chat added a third person in the background who actually is like a cyborg missing an eye now that I see this.
And
he
hold
has-
up. Now it looks like he's stealing from her.
He's like robbing grandma. I also wanted him in a beanie. So this is where we landed with did you picture this when you said the great generational wealth transfer?
No,
All right.
absolutely not.
Good.
Yes.
It's literally a stick up. Yeah. Okay, a few of those points, Matt. So $84 trillion are going to be passed from the boomer generation. And it's about 85% of that is going to go directly to heirs, which I don't know if this is a private thing of anyone. I don't think this is private. Does anyone have family money that's going to come to them that they know of? I don't think that's not embarrassing or not, or private, I don't think. Yeah, it's the biggest generation that's passing money. It's very, very common. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I don't
Yes.
have,
Some Chipotle gift cards. Yes.
you love Chipotle though.
It would be the best.
You would take
if
that
I
over
inherited
money.
that, I'd be very happy.
What's interesting is, so some of the economic impact of this is about 85% of that 84 trillion is going directly to people. And then the 15% is going to charities. So this is why it's such a big deal. Another topic for another time, but this is a huge thing in the planning and investing community because the question is, where's all that money going to go? Because it's coming to Gen X and millennial generations. Matt, I'm going to say some of this data, and I want to hear what you had thought about this because some of the data is, okay, a survey from Northwestern Mutual, 22% of baby boomers, only 22% of baby boomers and Gen X plan to leave a financial gift. Okay, so 22% of this generation is planning to leave a gift, which is kind of interesting. While a third of millennials and 38% of Gen Z expect to receive one. So basically, I don't know why, it's such an interesting thing because the data shows a giant chunk is going direct to heirs, but in these studies, it's showing a much smaller portion of boomers are planning to gift it. It makes me wonder if they don't think they have enough to gift. What do you think that is? And then a higher percentage of younger people expect a gift of some kind, which really changes the way people think about their own current financial situation.
Yeah, I think in the worst case scenario, and I've actually unfortunately seen this, currently dealing with this, where people kind of using it as a retirement plan. I have a current client. I won't name names. They're not
Name
in
names. Let's
they're
make
not
this
in
really
room. No, I'm just
spicy.
kidding. They're not in this room. But I do have a current
pull up
client.
their, like, Instagram. Yeah.
Who I am dealing with. We've had really a lot of heart-to-hearts, and I've had to have several come to Jesus moments where I've expressed to him as directly as I possibly can, you spend too much money, you're going to go broke. Like, you can't do this. And his response every time is, don't worry, I'm inheriting a bunch of money, like several $1 million. And I'm like, even at that amount, you're still going to go broke with how much they spend. So I think that's the worst case scenario. But I think this just highlights, whether the numbers are accurate or not, I think what this highlights is the importance of having this conversation if you have aging parents. It's so critical to just understand. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm the executor of my dad's estate. And what I've expressed to my dad is, I don't care where your money goes. I don't care if you give it to your dog, who he loves more than his kids anyway. I don't care what you do with your money. What I care about is understanding your wishes, what you want to do with your money while you're of sound mind now. Because if not, I'm left holding the bag. I'm left trying to balance how to approach this and what you would have wanted, what mom would have wanted. So having these conversations now, and I'll actually say, I've had several with my dad. They've actually been really powerful, connecting conversations to talk about. So I just think highlighting that if you have I think we all probably have aging parents. If they're still around, I think it's just critical to have these conversations, to talk about it, understand what they want to do with their money, and set expectations for yourself, for your siblings, before it's too late.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we don't have to raise hands on this one, but everyone is probably familiar with at least someone close to them where this has become it's a very divisive issue in families, like the dividing of assets. Thank you.
Stop.
This is why I don't show you anything, because then you laugh at my jokes. This is really good. It can be a huge issue in families, to your point, when there's not a plan in place. Often people want their parents to be spend your money however you want, which another data point was really interesting. I don't know why the generation is feeling this way. It's almost 50% of high net worth boomer generation plan on spending it down, which is, I mean, so you're talking about people in their late 60s, 70s who have generational wealth and they have more money than they have time, and they still think they're going to spend it, which I do think is a generational mentality around spending and kind of hoarding money to that point. I think that's the thing. True. And then to your other point, it's almost half and almost 60% of millennial generation who, like you were saying, expected an inheritance in order to improve their own financial situation. And they're making career decisions off this. They're making investment. They're increasing their spending habits early in life because they're expecting money to come down, even though the data is saying, hey, some of the older generation doesn't want to pass it to you.
You'd be very disappointed. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this part would just be an invitation to think through maybe what you have coming, in the family and older generations above you, and how to maybe get involved, because that is the position that some of us are going to be in, like you, executor of is anyone else here the executor of a family estate already? Yeah, pretty common.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, right?
I'm so sorry.
That's a good question to ask my father while he's still of sound mind.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially
critical to talk about it.
Yeah, it gets messy. Okay. Planning for your estate. Okay, this section is, one of the things I'm going to give you guys as soon as we're done, I'll put it in the group chat. I've turned this thing into a PDF. I've basically built a checklist, an estate planning checklist. No way we're going through this at all. But I've built an estate planning checklist that are like the points to hit, the questions to ask, the things you want to make sure and take care of. And this does include not only if you've never done one before, but this includes if you need to update one. And so we'll go through that. So don't worry we're not going to cover every point on here. I just wanted to show it to you, and we're going to highlight some of the areas.
You said we're going till midnight.
Oh yeah, that's right. So never mind, we're going to read it.
We're totally fine.
Yeah.
We're totally fine.
Yeah. This is Dan's 500 words per slide, and we're going to go through them. No, so this is all on a PDF, and it's basically an estate planning checklist that we can get out to you guys. So we'll go through some of the high level things, and we can pause and ask questions if we have any questions about that. So any questions so far? Anything anyone wants to say or add or yell at Matt or anything? Okay, cool.
Me?
Yeah, okay. I hope so. Does any?
The Michael Scott?
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you, dude. Okay, all right.
The Office.
Was this actually your quote, though? It is now.
Yes,
Okay.
it is. I wish you would have transposed this
I didn't have
on to
time.
Michael Scott.
That would have been the better
That would have been
thing.
amazing.
It's so close, but so far away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
still there. I heard Jared say this. I think you said this a couple times earlier this week, and estate planning is one of many subjects where this kind of mentality is completely true. It is unfortunately something you have to deal with, and if you don't, either like this first section, your parents or the people above you, or your own, it can create some huge messes. Depending on how big your balance sheets are, how complex, how many things you own, it can be pretty messy when it goes to the courts and probate.
This is the epitome of taking credit visually. You put Jared's name so tiny.
I know, yeah.
And yours huge.
Yeah, that's my quote.
Like if Jared said it, but like also.
Yeah, that's what Michael Scott's. It's
Yeah.
the Wayne Gretzky quote.
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
Wayne Gretzky's tiny, and then Michael
he's
Scott at the
huge.
bottom.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm glad you got that. Thank you very much. Okay, so this is just one of the things Matt was talking about the other night. This is kind of a visual representation of how we gather and organize and report on data, personal financial data, from assets to how you're insured, which is extremely important with estate planning, where your money's being spent, your cash flow, and then the bottom row is probably the most important things of the data that we track as financial advisors is probably this one, which is how you're insured. And then the bottom row, which is all of your net worth and how it's broken up. How much is in real estate, businesses, what's considered qualified money, which is like 401ks,
Retirement
IRAs,
accounts.
retirement accounts. Yeah, thanks. And then liquid money. How your net worth is comprised that will determine a lot of how estate planning goes. And it also determines a lot of how retirement goes in general. If you're a person who built a huge net worth in, let's say, a bunch of practices, that is a different experience retiring and slowing down than someone who has a bunch of money in a liquid brokerage account. And that's different than someone who has a bunch of real estate. And there's no right or wrong in any of those. It's just, those are all just different experiences. So,
And some technicality differences. So passing
huge, yeah.
down a pre-tax 401k or IRA versus a brokerage account or piece of real estate is passed down very differently. An after-tax account has what's called step-up in basis. And so if I have an account that has $5 million in it, but half of which is growth, which would be taxed to me, but I pass it down in a brokerage account, it steps up. So then people who inherit that money, my kids, would not be taxed on that money. A 401k or an IRA is different. They have to pay tax on that money. So understanding those technicalities is critical as well.
yeah, it's just being organized with what your data looks like right now. And this is an exercise that you would go through with have you done this with like your dad too? Did you go through this?
Yeah,
Or he has people that go through that.
Riveting.
He's got people.
It's riveting. Yeah, he
It's
loved
riveting.
it. He
isn't
loved it.
Okay, so we're going to jump into some of these categories. We're not going through all these. Again, I'm sending this all out, and this can act like a checklist that you can use to update your estate plans or do them for the first time. Yeah, so we'll go through a few of these. And if you have any questions, if you want to stop on any of these and just ask some general questions, then let's do that. Cool? Okay. So we have some general stuff. You'll see this later. These are all the pieces of an estate plan. So what Matt was just saying, it's not only just what you own, but how part of an estate plan, what you'll do is you'll go title everything. So anyone who's done this before, you'll go back and you'll retitle things. You'll have trusts, you'll have LLCs that now own things that you might have owned personally before. Insurance policies that you have will be owned and titled differently. So that's all part of the estate plan is titling, which becomes a huge issue if you don't
Very
do
big.
this correctly. Do you want to explain probate for a second?
Oh, yeah,
Like the consequence
having
of
not seen this presentation, I don't know where it's going. So
Yeah, there's
I
like
will-
20 of these coming. So
perfect,
yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
I will say the most important part from the perspective of where you guys all sit today when it comes to estate planning is understanding why even have an estate plan and understanding the ways assets are passed. There's really only 3 ways assets are passed to your heirs. If you don't have an estate plan, it's passing through probate. It's basically saying, I'm giving up my assets to the courts, to the state, wherever state you live in, to decide who gets what. Most people don't like that. I wouldn't like that. I don't want the state to determine who's getting what. It's expensive depending on the state you're in. California is, I think, the worst of all of them, most expensive. But it's expensive, and it's just, this is why I tell people all the time, like, having an estate plan is an act of love. It's an act of love. It has nothing to do with money. It's basically telling the people you're passing the money on to is, I want to take this pressure off of you. So it's either passed via probate, it's passed what's called by contract. So that's having beneficiaries of your accounts. That's a really, really basic thing that a lot of people forget, is having beneficiaries stated on your accounts. That avoids probate. Or it's passed via a trust. That also avoids probate. Those are really the only ways that it passes on. And having an estate plan, the people always ask, like, why do I do this? The number one reason is to avoid probate, avoid a legal battle for your kids.
Mm-hmm. And there's probably situations where it goes through probate and people, maybe businesses that you own, your heirs, charities, something that maybe expecting the money, and probate can last a long time.
Oh yeah.
And it can get tied up for a long time.
Well, and it creates legal battles. So if you've got any person in your life or that can battle, can fight, we live in a
they
very,
can say, Dad didn't want that, Mom didn't want this.
very
and,
litigious country we live in. You might not win, but you can sue for anything, and you can hold up that process for a long, long time.
Yeah. Thanks, Matt. Yep. This is a thing that will be a thing. Is there any talk on this changing yet? I mean, there's a lot of things going on.
I mean, other than we have executive orders to ban
No straws.
or to bring back plastic straws,
Yeah,
but
the
I don't
straws
know.
went away.
So what this is, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, I think it was 2017, this was enacted. One of the things that did was create what's called the tax exemption for estate and gift tax. It made it double what it was. So I think now it's like 13.6 million. What this basically means is it's the limit of how much you can pass on without hitting the gift tax. The federal gift tax or estate tax, which is 40%. Yeah. It's significant. Unless Trump and his administration, and really this has to pass through Congress.
Soon.
Soon.
Yeah, it's got to start
Unless
soon.
this gets passed, it's set to sunset at the end of this year. So what happens is this gets cut in half. So you might be sitting here thinking at $13.61 million per person, 27 whatever million as a couple, this will impact you. But you cut that in half, unless there's changes made in the future, this would impact most people.
How many dentists?
By the time you retire.
Yeah, how many dentists have a total combined household net worth of over? I mean, it seems like, oh, that's insane, but it's not. Like over $13 million.
I would imagine everyone in this room, by the time you're at a place of passing on assets, would be at this level. Now, a lot can change until then, including this year. I would not be shocked if Trump's administration is going to work on getting this extended.
Because this is huge. Yeah,
huge.
And this is where...
Well, he put this in place in the first place. That was Trump. My guess is the chances are he's going to try to do this.
Yeah.
But again, we have until the end of this year.
And this is where beginning this process now so it doesn't feel rushed, this is where this involves more, let's say, complex life insurance planning. So, and this is a good reminder too. This is a totally different subject, but dentists do not need complex, expensive, permanent life insurance. You don't need whole life. You do not need that stuff. If you're being sold that stuff, you don't need it right now. There's very few reasons to need it except for this. However, when you get to this point and your net worth as a family, as a household is starting to bump up against some of these thresholds, especially if they don't stay high, then the way to pay the taxes when this all gets passed on is through life insurance. That is the most cost-effective, most efficient way to pay for estate taxes, through life insurance. And there's very specific kinds to buy at different times in your life that usually tries to get sold to like 25-year-olds. It's not necessary. Yeah. But it becomes very, very necessary to pay estate taxes later, especially if your estate is more on the illiquid side. So if your net worth is sitting in businesses or real estate, stuff that is hard to liquidate or you don't want to, you probably don't even want your heirs to have to liquidate investment accounts either, even if it is liquid. So that's where insurance planning becomes very, very important. And this will be I'm sure insurance people are, if I was in the insurance industry, I'd be taking advantage.
We only sell annuities, but.
We only sell annuities. Yeah, we should change that. And Anyway, does anyone have any questions on that, by the way? Yeah.
Just recap that for me really quick, that last night.
This?
Sorry, I was eating some dessert.
Hey, I do not blame you.
Which one?
Wait, yeah, which dessert?
What topic? What are we saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, what dessert, first of all? Cheesecake?
Yeah.
The flan?
So if your state, if
Something chocolatey?
I saw in my state is less than 13 million, then they don't, then what do I pay?
Okay.
What are my kids going to pay tax?
Yeah, currently with the current laws, we're going to assume in this situation you go first, my friend? Okay, all right. And then your wife gets it all? Is that the scenario? That's where it is triggered. So if it's just one of you first, it goes to the spouse. If you're legally married, it goes to the spouse, and it's not taxed yet. When the second spouse goes, or it happens at the same time, that's when the estate tax is triggered if you're above those numbers. Right now, they're really high. Next year, anything above it gets taxed at 40% and then additional in some states. That threshold is pretty high for dentists. That's pretty high for a couple, for a household. But that's set to expire, like Matt said, and then chop in half, which many dentists could easily be over that threshold.
The other part of this that people get confused often is this is a state and gift tax exemption. So under the current law, everyone has basically a number that they carry with them throughout their whole life that is a state and or gift. So if you're gifting to your kids, this is so often confused. People say, well, if I go above the gift tax threshold per year, I think right now it's like 18 grand per kid per person that you can gift. If I go above that, I'm going to get taxed. No, you won't. You don't get taxed. You just have to basically put it on paper and it goes against this. So it's the same thing. It's not taxed. If you go above the gift tax yearly exclusion, it just goes on your tab. It's like putting it on your tab. And then when you die, you file that year after year after year, and it goes against this number. Does that make sense?
It just whittles it down.
It whittles it down during your life.
Yeah. So that's why the law ending is really significant, especially in the dental community. A lot of people will be well above that threshold, especially in the environment now where people are selling bigger multi-location practices for big multiples.
Well, and what's happening right now, it won't affect anyone in this room, but this year in particular, if it doesn't get changed, people that are like our parents possibly would be doing this and really enacting a strategy around gifting. You would want to do something like that of passing on assets now under the bigger threshold, assuming it doesn't change.
There you go. For someone who didn't see the slides, Matt, like you are seriously just crushing
Look
it
at
right
me.
now.
Okay.
9:00 at night. Marion, and then we'll go there. Yeah. You had something.
You kind of just, when you said it goes to the spouse and no tax. That's what?
Yeah. It's
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jared, you are done, bro. You're not
There's a
making
lot
out
of
tonight.
murdery themes happening. Did that ruin your plans for the week? Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Actually, that helps your plans, maybe. Okay. That's good news.
That kind of blows my mind, and I don't understand why I wouldn't. Is it because it was our money in the first place? Like,
Why you're not taxed if he only goes and then you receive the money and you're not taxed yet?
because it was our money.
Yeah. It's like a household asset. Yeah. Yeah. And that's another benefit of the old.
It depends on the
Yeah.
state too. So some
Yeah.
states,
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
and there are some exceptions depending on the state in regards to community property versus not community property, but generally.
And then just to go to your point about estate, whatever, I can't remember the words, but the gift plus the estate thing. Yeah, that actually just happened with Jared's mom. Like, she
Gifting from his parents? Yeah.
or something. I can't remember, but the lawyer was like, "Oh, we'll just do that against their estate," and they're like, "But you should know that they're not going to have that much money at the end because they were gifted that much." I was like,
It's all connected.
Yeah.
All connected.
Yeah.
Yep.
if you bump up for it, then suddenly it's 40%.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and what you're saying back there is a huge amount of money that was already taxed anyway in the first place. Huge amounts of taxes. I know. Yeah.
Is it 40, is the tax 40% above the
Yeah.
threshold?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's exempt, and then any amount of money over
Yeah,
it was
that's how it
taxed at
works.
that amount. Exactly
Yeah.
right.
What were you going to say? Yeah, the gifting. It's removed from your estate completely.
Yep. It's not taxed.
It's not taxed.
Nope. Nope.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So that's a great question. So
Which is where a lot of this is going,
insurance planning, charitable planning, gifting strategies is all intertwined with estate planning, because to that point, if you're giving it a charity, would not be taxed.
And again, this is why estate planning is such a hard subject to do, even if we were estate planning attorneys and did this for a living, because it changes state to state, and it changes state to state and individually based on your own situation, what assets you hold. And
To that point, every single state has their own tax exemption. So this is federal. It's all federal. Every state has their own. So, and are usually much, much lower. So you'd want to know, like, I think some states we're talking like a couple $1,000,000 for that state exemption, where you're going to get hit with estate taxes at the state level.
yeah,
So definitely be looking at that. I think everyone in this room at some point, if not already, would want to be working with an attorney, if you haven't already, when it comes to this. It's state specific.
yeah. From a business standpoint, there's things in here in business, buy-sell agreements, especially from a liability standpoint, is kind of separate. But those of you who practice alone or solo without help, partners or associates to step in if something happened to you, just from a disability standpoint, having some kind of buy-sell agreement in place. But also when you do have partners, this becomes a huge thing. It's probably, do people have buy-sells, those with partners? Is that a common thing that people have explored before, buy-sell agreements?
If you're a partner, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Dad's like, did we do it?
if you had an attorney write up your operating agreement, you have a buy sell. If they don't, you definitely need to talk to them for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, totally. Okay, we'll just keep cruising through some of these. Yeah, Matt, you were saying these are common mistakes, and oh, you know what? Anyway, okay. Was just
Live
thinking-
stream of consciousness. Yeah.
No,
What are you thinking?
I was-
now you
I
have
was-
to share.
I just remembered my ADHD prevented me from putting at the end. We've done like 7 interviews with really smart estate planners on our podcast. I can link them to you guys later. I was gonna put them there, and then I saw a dog run by or something, or I probably was actually talking about how I get distracted easily, and then I didn't finish.
That makes sense.
And I was just thinking that a lot of these came from the interviews we did on our podcast. So that triggered but you were saying earlier, if you have an estate plan already, you should revisit it every probably 3 to 5 years, or when there's a significant life event. What does that include? What would you say is a significant life event?
I mean, the big ones, divorce, obviously death of a spouse, having a child, anything changes with your business, any major asset changes, liquidation events, you sell your practice, you sell a piece of real estate.
Buy stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Like buying real estate.
Most people, every 3 to 5 years, there's something happening that you want to revisit. One of the most common mistakes we see is people establish a trust where they feel good about it. It's on paper. And then 10 years go by, 15 years go by. They now have 3 locations, 4 pieces of real estate, a bunch of assets, and they've put nothing in the trust. That's a huge common mistake. That paper is worthless at that point if you've not taken the time to review on a regular basis and update, whether that be the asset itself is owned to the trust or has what's called a pour-over provision where that asset is actually going into the trust. Like, you have to put those things on paper as well. You can't just have the trust and not have anything in it.
You can't just say everything that I own, I like to put in the trust. Like, that's the only words I say in the trust. Everything I own, I want it in the
So that would be yeah, you could. There are some legal things, like language that an attorney would use, but it gets a little tricky. Again, it's like risk mitigation, right? If you own a piece of real estate and you don't put it in the trust, or you buy the piece of real estate after you've established the trust, you're setting yourself up, or your heirs up, for battles possibly. A trust doesn't even go to probate. It's incontestable, basically. It's a legal document that wouldn't even go in front of a judge. If it's not in the trust, it's going in front of a judge.
Yeah. And it's really common for people to have trusts set up, estate planning done, and then they'll set up like an investment account and go years and build hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars. And then it's not even titled in the name of their trust or anything. So yeah, it's a huge one.
Can you go back to that last slide real quick?
Yeah.
This outdated document thing is giving me stress. So, it's, major life events every 3 to 4. So, is there a shelf life on a lot of these documents? Is there something that
Like an expiration. It's more that things happen in your life that will not be included. that will affect it. So if you do it 5 years ago, but then you've had more kids, or you started new businesses, or you own a big commercial building, it's not automatically in your trust that you did 5 years ago. You have to go back.
That's
and
more
add
what it
them.
is.
Or you get new insurance policies or new investment accounts, and you didn't title them in the name of the trust. Yeah.
Is this something that only an attorney can do, or is this something you guys can do?
The attorney does it. They file all the legal stuff. They write it all up, and then they send all these documents to us, and then we help retitle things that we have control over. So
All the time. We review it all the
They
time.
come to us.
We're,
Yeah.
again, saying we're not attorneys, but we've seen enough of this. We'll review and make sure that the biggest thing is just I've created even summary documents for people where I take their documents, create a one pager, and say, here are the big things that came out of all these documents. Is this how you want it to be? Things like power of attorney, guardianship, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Jared?
You had us do ours through trust and will.
Yep.
Is online.
Yep.
Yeah. We have a resource for that too at the end of this. But yeah, so
We have a new group we use, but it's basically the same thing.
yeah,
It's great.
He was just asking about an online provider. So the tricky thing about estate planning, again, it's so state specific with state specific laws. The more complex your situation, you should do it with a live person in your state. But a lot of people, especially early and mid-career in dentistry, and if you have some investment accounts, a home, a building, and a practice, that's not super complex yet. And there's some online providers, like Jared's saying, that have been really useful. They're totally legal and valid in all states. It's a little bit more self-directed. It is less expensive. And we have a resource for you too that's free at the end of this. But yeah, there's roles in this. So and we don't have to go through this, but it's like, you're the executor. There's people who make certain decisions in these, and you have to appoint those people. Did you have to do that with your dad? Like what happens, like medical decisions, and is that all on you?
No. So
I haven't done this. Oh, I actually have done this with my parents. It is all on me and my sister. Oh crap!
Now you're
just
finding that out.
remembering.
So yeah, there's different roles in this.
I don't want to. Oh man.
And it can all be the same person, or it may not be. So there's the executor, who's the person who actually or not even controls, basically is making sure that everything goes smoothly. It's like the person that's appointed to make sure all the dots are dotted, T's are crossed, all that.
Yeah.
There's the medical person.
Yeah.
Which is different. So I think it's my brother or something who's the medical decision maker. And then if you have young kids, that would be who's going to take over.
Caretaker.
Like this is probably the biggest one when
Right
you
now.
have young children, is who's going to take your children if something were to happen to you, and have those conversations. So don't just put the person on paper, whoever it is, brother, sister, friend.
Oh, I bet that's happened,
actually
right? Where
have-
someone's like
absolutely.
assigned kids in a will,
Yeah,
and they just
have
like
those
come to your house.
conversations for sure.
I bet that's happened.
Oh, 100%.
Okay, and then was there something?
She's laughing at us.
Incapacity planning. This is these are kind of like medical disability decision making. Yeah, that's part of it. We'll cruise through some of these things. This was liquidity is just who's going to pay the taxes. Where's the tax money going to come from? Again, this is where insurance planning comes in handy. Becomes really, really important later.
Wait, what are digital assets?
Yeah, what do you want to see?
Digital assets.
Oh, digital assets. Yeah, it's kind of a newer thing. Crypto. Yeah, your cryptos. Yeah,
Yeah. Some digital crypto assets.
is the friend 6'5" and yeah, okay.
Looks like a Greek god.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of funny to think someone's social media account. I mean, some of you in here have social media accounts that are actual digital assets. Michael, is that true?
Michael.
Mark? No, I mean, yeah, it's a kind of a liability. Yeah. It is an interesting thing to think about, that assets that we do own outside of like monkey NFT pictures, right?
Yeah.
That was a thing for a little bit. Like social media accounts. I mean, really, some people in this room have valuable social media accounts. Who's going to take that over? Who's going to run these things or be in charge of them? Yeah, cryptocurrency, online banking.
For your friend.
For
For your
friends.
friend,
Yeah.
yeah.
Who are into that stuff. Yeah, okay.
You guys jump back to I was curious about that one, 12.
12? Okay.
So with this, you guys have touched on a little bit, but quite a bit. But I'm curious, like, how often are kids stuck holding the bag for like, I don't know, taxes? Basically, what liabilities get thrust on, whoever is the
Yeah, from a tax perspective at the federal level, your biggest concern would be if you're above those exemption thresholds. If you get it, so let's say the administration this year is not able to stop the sunset from happening and it gets cut in half. That's where it starts to become a real concern from a federal level, and that those taxes. So that goes down to 13 whatever million. Let's say you were both to die, not to make this awkward, but you die and you've got $20 million in assets. That $7 million becomes taxable at 40%.
And I get that. I'm talking more about like unpaid accounts. If they were on liabilities, they're carrying liabilities, and maybe
Yeah.
Does that get transferred?
Creditors will liquidate assets or force courts
Asset
and
liquidation
creditors, yeah.
via the estate. Yeah, basically the estate itself becomes the person, and that person has to basically
pay the bills.
pay the bills and make sure things are liquidated. So as Ryan was saying, what can happen in those situations if you've got a really illiquid situation, which a lot of dentists often do, you've got a practice, you've got real estate. There are situations, depending on the debt situation, that you'd have to liquidate some assets to cover the debts upon your death.
Is there any liabilities that then get transferred to the kids at all, or are kids protected?
I guess it could. And it wouldn't be necessarily. It's all technicalities. It would stay with the estate if they're not paid off. Which at that point the kids would be responsible for it. So, because they now run the estate or control the estate, it's given to the kids. So that is possible. That is possible for sure.
Yeah, you know how we didn't give you any money while we were live?
But we gave you some debt. Yeah.
Now you pay my debts.
It is for sure possible. That
Generational
the estate
wealth.
would be stuck with those debts. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's just say you leave a house with a mortgage, $1 million house with $500,000 mortgage, what happens?
Yeah, the mortgage is still there.
Okay, are they responsible for the mortgage, or does that have to be paid off before the house?
That it would probably be up to
Depends who owns it.
It depends on who owns it.
And then
Depends
what
on
they
the
wanna
bank.
do with it, yeah.
The how much money's left. Like that would be probably negotiation with the bank possibly. There are a lot of debts or a lot of loans that they're like in the actual promissory note. The bank would have a provision in there that would call the debt at that point. It's very, very possible, very likely that debt would be called unless you're negotiating that.
Yeah, I mean, think about one of the most hotly contested pieces in a family's gifting or what the heirs receive is the home that the parents lived in. And you have multiple kids, and some kids are like, I just want the money, and then one kid's like, this is my childhood. I want the whole house. And if there's not specific instructions, it can be tied up for a long time, caught that way. So there's some more ownership stuff. Again, I'll send all this out to you guys. This is really interesting and fairly common. This is a big deal. So parents with special needs children, especially those who will be in the care of parents or family for their lifetime. This is very, very common. There are specific trusts just for this to take care of them forever and making sure that their all their health care needs are met and their therapies and everything. This is a very specific type of trust that gets overlooked quite a bit, actually. Whole other separate part of estate planning. So a couple other things here I was going to get to. Yeah, we were talking about this. These are some of the ways that you protect. So parts of estate plan are not only instructions. When you're younger and you have less assets, estate planning is more just instructions. What happens, like medical instructions, what I might have right now, where does it go? But as it gets bigger and more complex, when you own more stuff and you're worth more on paper, not as a human being, then you want to protect this stuff from lawsuits. We won't even raise hands here how many people have been sued or might be sued soon or could be sued. Being sued as a dentist is very, very common, and there's so many ways you can get sued, especially the more practices, the more people, and the more real estate it opens you up. So yeah, we've covered some of these, but there's a lot of there's directions and then there's protection of your assets in case of lawsuits, which again is a whole other insurance discussion too. Okay, let's go to, I will just say this, and then we can wrap up and answer any questions if there are questions on this stuff. At the end of this, I have a QR code in here, and I'll send this out again. we have a partner called Estately. It's simple, kind of like Trust and Will. It's a partner of ours, and they just offer free estate planning to our actual clients. But we were like little sneaky wink wink, and we're just going to give you guys the link to. You're our friends and family now, so we're going to give you the link in a couple of slides to do a free. It's a full legal binding estate plan through our partner called Estately. You've ran through a few of these with Estately before. You're really familiar with them. It's a little bit self-guided, but they have attorneys on staff that'll walk you through. Anything you want to say about that? And we'll.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've gone through this with
self-explanatory.
people not being attorneys, of course, but we're happy to go through it with people and at least share what we normally see. For most basic estate plans, they're relatively straightforward, pretty boilerplate of the things that you need. And then we'd be happy to tell you, and there's probably a lot of you in the room could be where we would just say, like, we need to get you with an attorney, depending on your
It might be
your
more
balance sheet.
complex
Yeah,
than an
exactly.
online self-directed thing could be.
But if you don't have anything in place, having something is better than nothing. So this is where we guide a lot of our clients and just say, let's just get
Start here.
something on paper, and then we can engage that conversation later of more complexity in getting an attorney. Because an attorney, you're looking at a minimum of a few $1,000s, depending on the situation. Could be up to
Tens of thousands of dollars sometimes.
depending
and
on what it
really,
is. Depending how complex it is, it could be several $1,000s.
I mean, you've seen these. Some people in this room might have seen estate plans put in front of you from attorneys where it looks like an NCAA bracket.
Yeah.
Is that the sports term to
Yeah.
use? Okay.
Yeah, good job. Yeah.
Touchdown.
Yeah.
Like you'll see these papers and there's just like this entity feeds into these two and that feeds into these three, and it can be $25,000, $30,000, and it could be worth it. It might be necessary for some people. So anyway,
And for that amount of money, I will also make you an NCAA bracket. Just so you know, call me. I'll do it for half that.
yeah, Matt, what do you want to say about how a financial advisor interacts with the estate plan? We might have already said it.
Yeah,
kind
I mean,
of.
I think the biggest role that we play is actually helping people get it done and engaging in those conversations. Most people don't wake up thinking like, I want to do an estate plan today. Financial planning, we already have referenced many times, is like the eat your vegetables part of life. And estate planning is like, pick your worst vegetable, whatever that is.
Beets.
I hate beets.
Oh,
That's
I
a great
hate
one,
beets,
actually. So I think the role we would play would be number one, just or any advisor you're working with would be the one to like quarterback the process. Not only to help you get started, but also help you understand what it's even being said. The same thing with CPAs. Estate attorneys are not the best at explaining things oftentimes, where they're
Freaking nerds.
freaking nerds,
dude.
and that's coming from an advisor. We're like the cool kids of the money world. Yeah.
Oh.
What? Yeah. Yeah.
Still even
Yeah.
know.
So
Nerd.
a lot of times we play like translator. So that's a lot of what we do is we'll play translator for our clients. A really quality advisor should be able to play that middleman of helping you take what's super complicated and hopefully making it
And
pretty
having
simple.
organized, and we do this for clients getting loans or insurance
Yeah.
policies too. We're the ones who actually have the whole picture of what everything looks like in income and spending and the big picture of what all the assets and balance sheet looks like. So
Yeah, there's been situations where I've had clients with complex situations just say, talk to my attorney, my estate attorney, go through the initial process of like the gathering of everything, organizing everything. And then we basically get them to the end, and then the client comes in at that point and then has that, because obviously there's only so far we can take it. But from a lot of the organizational piece, we can take a lot of that off. And I'm saying we, as in your advisor, if you're working with one, should be able to take you pretty close to the 1 yard line, football reference. And then you'd have to come in at the end. And then you get like the tush push. So this is a reference to Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. Yeah.
so lost on me. Anyway, we're going to take a break and come back for another hour and do part 3. No, this actually was really something we were looking forward to getting to. There's a whole discussion to be had. It would probably be, snap a picture of this question and have this discussion as a journaling exercise, a date night.
I think this actually comes back to what I think Mark
Yep.
hit this in great detail.
Exactly
When we were
it.
going through this outline and thinking about it, we thought of these 3 sections, and the last one we thought is like just this very question, like what else are you passing to your heirs? I think most people, when they think of generational wealth, and I've heard that term used so much in my career, generational wealth, there's a lot more you can pass than money. And I'll be honest, I actually think money's bottom of the list of the things that you can pass to your kids. And so we wanted to, and maybe just open it up to people. I think Mark covered this really well, but just like things that you're thinking about, or have you ever thought about the things you're passing to your kids outside of money? We'd love to hear any thoughts if you have any. But we also know it's past 9.
Yeah, it's past time. I mean, I think this is important to say too. From the financial planning asset, the helping people grow net worth. Not everyone wants to leave money behind. There are people who have money to leave behind. I mean, even in the data, it says it's like 45% of the boomer generation doesn't even want to leave the money, but they want to spend it. So I kind of want to validate too. It's okay if people have the money and don't even want to leave it to their heirs, or very little of it. I mean, Warren Buffett, they're still going to get chunks. It's still going to be
They'll be
significant.
okay.
It'll be like 9%.
They're going to write books about
I'll take like, yeah.
Warren's my dad. Yeah.
And then there's, either way you have to, even if it's not about money, there's still things that you don't want to burden your families with. Also, not everyone is going to be in the financial position to leave money even if they want to. And that's also okay too, because life is expensive and things come up, and not everyone gets to pile up millions of dollars by the time they're, in their later part of life to leave to kids. And that's also okay. So
I think the biggest, I'll reiterate this point. I think the biggest thing to take away from this is have the conversation. Have the conversation with your parents. Have the conversation with your kids early and often. And what I mean by that is again, when it comes to the parents, talk to them about what they want. A lot of times you're going to find your parents probably want to have this conversation, or they've been thinking about it just like you have. And you're going to find that it's actually, again, really a connecting conversation. There's a lot of situations where maybe you're in the situation where it's like, I don't want to pass my money, but I want to spend it all while you're alive. That could be something that you could talk about to your parents, or you talk to your kids. But again, the biggest takeaway here is just have the conversation. Yeah. Don't avoid it. You avoid it, and it constantly will lead to more heartache, pain, frustration later.
Mm-hmm. What you choose to avoid can hurt
you and will.
Ryan Isaac. Jared. Yeah. Okay. This is the QR code. Again, we'll send this out. You can snap this if you want really fast. This is our partner, Estately. This takes you right to the website that looks just like this, and it's literally a free estate plan. And it is a great place to begin. From what I understand, they will update estate plans too. They will help you update your current estate plan if you want to go this route. I'll give you a second to do that. And I'll send this out too here. That's what it's like to be like famous when everyone's pointing a phone at you. Yeah. Like,
I want to go back to that last slide. I think did that. And I think this is
there was a poignant question. I was like, ooh, look at that. Oh, Yeah, yeah, okay.
And I think this is important because it really kind of hones in on you guys' approach to finances. And so Lindsay's big thing, and I've loved her for a lot of reasons, but one of the
I like how Lindsay just looked over and said, what is my big? What are we going? Where are we going with this? Yeah.
She's like, here we go, buckle up.
Yeah. Yeah.
so it gets back and lost.
Yeah.
But the point that I like, what your guys' perspective on finances, it hones in on this idea of like what are you leaving behind. And her big thing is that she likes to give our kids experiences. And so when you ask this question of what else do you leave behind besides money, and we have the capacity and ability right now to give our kids experiences. So like
While they're with you.
Yeah. While they're in our house, right? Well, even when they're gone.
Yeah.
We leverage our income against their experiences,
Mhm.
right? So we want to,
Yeah.
like, we take them to Africa. We take to go and, like, my son had a chance to assist me while I was, working on patients. So
Yeah.
that's something that we'll have forever.
Mhm.
I mean, experiences like that. But I love that you guys focus on that. I think that that's something that maybe, I'd like to bring a little attention to that. Like,
Thank you. Yeah.
this whole idea of, like, living your rich life now.
Mm-hmm.
And not, you got a plan for tomorrow, and what are you going to give your kids and all that stuff when you're gone. But what about what you're going to give your kids while you're here?
Yeah. Is that Africa trip worth more than an extra tens of thousands, when you're 85 and they're 55 or whatever. Yeah, I think it would be.
And maybe it's just me, but I would dare say, if your kids had a choice
Yeah, yeah,
between the two, they'd rather have the memories than the money.
yeah.
Yeah, don't ask. Yeah. When they're a little older, maybe.
Give me the freaking money and leave me alone. I know.
Yeah.
That's what they would say.
Actually, you know what,
yeah.
Mom? I don't need that trip. Just give me the money.
Yeah. Okay. So great. I think that's about. Again, we want to invite you guys this summer, Dennis Money Summit in Park City. If you can join us, it'd be super cool. A lot of these kind of topics and discussions happen over a couple days, and love to have you guys out there. And discount code Elevation 25. I'll send this all out to you guys. Ask any questions you want later. But thanks so much. We love you. Bye bye.
Thank you, guys.